She was abandoned by her husband, left to suffer alone. By the roadside she gave birth to twins, her screams drowned by passing cars. And when he drove by, he didn't stop, he splashed mud on her instead. What do you think happened to her and her twins? This is the story of a woman who endured unimaginable pain and humiliation, yet still carried within her the kind of strength that turns tragedy into destiny. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please, subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. The house was quiet that evening, too quiet. Emily Carter sat by the window of the lavish living room, her hands resting on her swollen belly. 8 months pregnant with twins, her body ached from the weight, but what hurt more was the silence, the kind that carried rejection. Michael Carter, her husband, was late again. He was always late these days. Meetings, dinners, business trips. Emily had stopped asking questions. Every time she asked, his answers grew shorter, colder. Her phone buzzed. A message from her friend. Anna, I saw Michael at the Grand Lounge tonight. He wasn't alone. Clara was with him again. Emily's throat tightened. Clara Reynolds. That woman's name had become a dagger in her chest. She had heard rumors, whispers, even seen pictures online. Michael laughing, holding Clara's hand, acting as if Emily didn't exist. The sound of the front door slamming shut snapped her out of her thoughts. Michael's footsteps echoed down the hallway, confident and careless. Michael, Emily called, trying to keep her voice calm. He entered the room, tall, polished in his expensive suit, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't hers. His face was handsome, almost too perfect, but the warmth she once loved was gone. His eyes were cold, like a stranger's. You're late again, Emily whispered. Michael tossed his keys on the table and loosened his tie. So what? I don't owe you an explanation. Emily's lips trembled. I'm your wife, and I'm carrying your children. Don't I deserve at least a little respect? Michael laughed, a sharp, cutting sound. Respect? Emily, look at yourself. You're pathetic. Always whining, always needing attention. Do you think that's attractive? Her hands gripped the arm of the chair. I'm not pathetic. I stood by you, Michael, through everything. I gave up my own dreams for this marriage. All I ever asked was for you to be here, with me, for us. Michael walked closer, his expression twisted with disdain. Dreams? You had no dreams, Emily. You were nothing when I met you. Just a small-town girl who got lucky when I decided to marry. You. Don't fool yourself. You wouldn't have this house, these clothes, anything without me. Tears welled in Emily's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You loved me once. I thought I did, he sneered. But now? You bore me. You're weak, useless, and worst of all, embarrassing. Do you know what people say behind my back? That I married beneath me. That my wife is a sick, unstable woman who doesn't belong in high society. Emily's voice broke. Those are lies, Michael. Lies you planted. He smirked, adjusting his cufflinks. Of course they are. But people believe what I want them to believe. And what they believe is that Clara Reynolds is the woman worthy of me. Not you. Her heart dropped. Clara. Yes, Clara, Michael said, his tone laced with cruelty. She's everything you're not. Beautiful, confident, from a real family with real money. When I stand next to her, I don't feel ashamed. With you, you drag me down. You make me look small. Emily shook her head in disbelief. How can you say this to me? I'm your wife. I'm carrying your children. Children I never wanted, he snapped. Do you think I asked for twins? More mouths to feed, more distractions, more reasons for people to laugh at me? I don't want them, Emily. I don't want you. And I'm done pretending. Emily gasped as if he had struck her. Michael, please. Don't say that. Don't abandon me now. I need you. The babies need their father. He leaned down, his face inches from hers, his voice low and poisonous. Listen carefully, Emily. I don't care about you. I don't care about those brats inside you. You mean nothing to me. Do you understand? Nothing. Her tears finally fell, hot and unstoppable. You can't be this cruel. He straightened, pulling out his phone. Cruel? You haven't seen Cruel yet. Tomorrow everyone will know the truth, that my wife is unstable, unfit, and that she ran away. By the time I'm done, no one will believe a word you say. Clara and I will be free of you for good. Emily clutched her belly, trembling. You're going to destroy me. Michael gave her a cold smile. That's the plan. The room felt colder than winter. Emily tried to stand, but pain shot through her body. The babies were moving violently, as if reacting to the tension. Michael, she cried out. I think the babies are coming. Please help me. I need to go to the hospital. He looked at her with disgust. Don't drag me into your drama. Call an ambulance if you want. Or better yet, crawl there yourself. I'm done with you. And then, in the most heartless act yet, he walked to the door, opened it wide and pointed outside. Get out, Emily. Out of my house. You don't belong here anymore. Emily froze. You're throwing me out? Now? At night? While I'm in labor? Michael's eyes were dead. Yes, maybe then you'll finally understand. You were never wanted. The slam of the door behind her was like a death sentence. Emily stumbled into the cold night, clutching her stomach, her cries swallowed by the darkness. Her labor pains grew sharper, and the streets stretched endlessly before her. She was alone, abandoned, carrying the weight of betrayal and the lives of her unborn children into the night. The night air was sharp against Emily's skin as she staggered down the driveway, one hand gripping her belly, the other clutching the side of the gate for support. Her body shook with every wave of pain. Behind her, the mansion glowed warmly, but inside was no home for her anymore. Michael had slammed the door on her, on their marriage, on their unborn children, on everything they once shared. She turned, hoping, praying, that he would come after her, that his heart, buried somewhere under all that cruelty, might soften just enough to see her suffering. But the curtains shifted, and through the window she saw him. Michael stood with a glass of wine in his hand, his phone pressed to his ear, laughing. Not once did he look out at her. Not once did he care. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The contractions came harder now, tearing through her body like knives. She bit her lip, trying not to scream. She couldn't wake the neighbors. Michael would twist the story, and she would be the crazy one disturbing the peace. Her phone buzzed weakly in her pocket. She pulled it out, no battery. The screen went black. God, please, she whispered through tears. Don't let me do this alone. She stumbled forward, her slippers scraping against the pavement. Every step felt heavier than the last. A pair of headlights appeared at the end of the street. Relief surged through her chest. Maybe someone would stop. Maybe someone would help. The car slowed. She waved her arms desperately, tears streaming down her face. But as the vehicle drew near, her hope turned to dread. She recognized the sleek, black car instantly. Michael's car. It stopped right in front of her. For a moment she thought maybe, just maybe, he had changed his mind, that he'd open the door, rush to her side, and finally do the right thing. Instead, the window rolled down, and Clara's face appeared from the passenger side. She was smiling, beautiful as ever, her hair perfectly styled, her eyes sharp with mockery. Well, well, Clara drawled. Isn't this pathetic? Look at you, Emily, in the street like some beggar. Honestly, Michael, you should be ashamed. This is the mother of your children. Michael leaned over, his face illuminated by the dashboard lights. His smile was crueler than Clara's. Children I never wanted. Emily sobbed, clutching her stomach. Michael, please. I'm in labor. The babies are coming now. Don't do this. Don't leave me here." He tilted his head, as if considering her words. Then he leaned closer to Clara, his lips brushing her ear. She giggled, covering her mouth. When he turned back to Emily, his eyes were filled with scorn. "You made your bed, Emily. Now, lie in it. Crawl your way to the hospital. Maybe then you'll understand you were nothing more than a mistake in my life." Emily tried to take a step closer, her hand outstretched, but before she could reach the car, Michael pressed his foot down on the gas. The tires spun, and the car shot forward, spraying her with a wave of cold, filthy mud from the gutter. It splattered across her dress, her face, even her swollen belly. Emily screamed, stumbling back. Her hands trembled as she wiped the muck from her eyes. Her chest burned with humiliation. Michael didn't even look back. The red glow of his taillights grew smaller, then vanished into the night. Emily collapsed to her knees, the pain in her body nearly unbearable. Her cries echoed through the empty street. Her whole world had crumbled in that moment. Her husband had not only abandoned her but mocked her suffering. The contractions came again, stronger, merciless. She lay back on the cold pavement, her breaths ragged, her mind spinning between despair and sheer survival. "Not here. Not like this," she whispered. "My babies. Please hold on." She tried to crawl to the sidewalk, but her strength gave out. Her body shivered from the cold, from fear, from the crushing weight of betrayal. Every memory of Michael's love, his promises, his vows, his whispered words, flashed through her mind, and each one burned now, a lie carved into her soul. Still, beneath all the pain, something stirred inside her, a fire. If Michael thought this was the end of her, he was wrong. She would survive. For her babies, she would survive. Her vision blurred, her screams rising again as another contraction hit. Somewhere in the distance, another set of headlights approached. But this time, Emily didn't know if it was salvation or another cruel twist of fate. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and how did this story speak to you? The night stretched endlessly as Emily stumbled along the roadside. Her body shook with every contraction, each one sharper than the last. She pressed a trembling hand against her belly, whispering to her unborn children, "Please hold on, my babies, just a little longer. Mama's here." But her voice broke under the weight of pain and despair. The street was empty, cars flashing by. In the distance, their headlights blinding for a second, then gone. None stopped. None cared. She tried to wave, lifting her arm weakly, but the drivers only sped up, unwilling to get involved. Some turned their heads, pretending not to see the pregnant woman in the dirt. Emily fell to her knees, her dress already torn and stained. Sweat mixed with tears as her cries echoed into the night. "Somebody, help me," she sobbed. "Please, anyone." Her body convulsed with another contraction. She clutched her belly, screaming into the darkness. The twins were coming, whether she was ready or not. The sound of another engine approached, louder, smoother, familiar. Emily raised her head, hope flickering in her broken heart. And then she froze. It was Michael's car. The sleek black sedan slowed, the headlights flooding her small figure. For one breathless moment, she thought he came back. He came for me. Her hand lifted toward the car. "Michael!" she cried out. "Please, I can't do this alone. Please help me. Please take me to the hospital." The window rolled down. Clara Reynolds leaned forward from the passenger seat, her lips painted a cruel shade of red, her eyes glittering with amusement. "Michael," Clara said with a mocking laugh. "Look at her, lying in the dirt like an animal. This is the wife you were so ashamed of?" How pathetic. Emily's lips trembled. Clara, please, you're a woman, you understand. Don't do this. Don't. Let him leave me here. But Clara only smirked. You're already nothing, Emily. After tonight, you'll be less than nothing. Michael leaned over, resting his arm casually on the wheel. His face, lit by the dashboard glow, was unreadable at first. Then his lips curled into a smirk colder than the night itself. Emily, he said slowly, his voice dripping with disdain. This is exactly where you belong. On the ground. In the mud. Alone. You've been nothing but dead weight, and now you're just proof that I was right to throw you out. Emily's heart shattered. She screamed, reaching for him. Michael, please, I'm in labor. These are your children. For God's sake, help me. But Michael pressed harder on the gas. The car lurched forward, and a wave of filthy roadside water and mud splashed across Emily's body. It hit her face, her belly, her arms. She choked on it, gasping, as the car sped past. Her own husband had drenched her in dirt while she was giving birth to his children. Her cries turned into screams, not just of pain but of rage and heartbreak. Michael, you'll regret this. One day, you'll regret this. But Michael never looked back. Clara's laughter echoed from the open window as the car disappeared into the distance. Emily collapsed fully onto the dirt. Her body trembled violently. Her dress clung to her skin, wet and filthy. The contractions ripped through her like knives. There was no more time. The first baby was coming. With trembling hands, Emily pushed and screamed, her voice raw and desperate. Her fingers clawed at the earth, gripping handfuls of dirt as she bore down with every ounce of strength left in her body. Minutes stretched like hours. The pain was unbearable, a storm raging through her broken body. She thought she might die right there under the cruel stars. But then, through her tears, she heard it. A cry, weak, fragile, but real. Emily pulled the tiny, slippery body into her arms, wrapping the baby against her chest. It was a boy. His cries were faint, his breath shallow. No, no, please, Emily sobbed, rocking him gently. Stay with me, my love. Mama's here. Please don't leave me. Before she could even catch her breath, another wave of pain struck her. The second baby was coming. Her body convulsed, forcing her to push again. Her voice grew hoarse as she screamed into the night, her fingernails digging into the dirt. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the second child slipped into the world. A girl, strong, loud, her cries piercing the darkness. Emily clutched both babies to her chest. Her heart swelled with love, even as her body collapsed. With exhaustion, one child barely breathing, one strong and defiant. Twins born in the dirt, baptized in pain and humiliation. Emily pressed her lips to their tiny foreheads. I swear, she whispered through tears, I will protect you both. I will give you a life. No matter what it costs me, I will never abandon you the way your father abandoned us tonight. The night was silent again, broken only by the weak cries of her newborns. Emily rocked them, tears streaming down her face, not knowing if she'd live to see the sunrise. Emily sat trembling on the roadside, her twins cradled against her chest. Her dress was soaked in sweat, mud, and blood. Her face streaked with tears. Her body was weak, yet her arms held tight to her newborns as if they were the only thing keeping her alive. The boy's breaths came shallow, his tiny chest rising and falling as if every gasp might be his last. The girl cried with strength, her little fists clenched in defiance of the world she was born into. Emily kissed them both desperately. Don't leave me, please, my loves. Don't leave me alone. She rocked them back and forth, her voice breaking. Cars passed in the distance, their lights blinding her for a second before fading. None stopped. Not one driver cared. Her mind spun with thoughts of Michael, his laughter, his cruelty, Clara's mocking smile, the way the car had splashed mud on her as she screamed. Her own husband had left her to die on the side of the road. The shame burned in her chest, but stronger than shame was a vow forming in her heart. You will not win, Michael. You will not erase me. These children will live, and so will I. Her body slumped forward, dizzy, ready to give out. And then footsteps. Ma'am? Oh my God. A man's voice, rough but kind. Emily forced her eyes open. A figure hurried toward her. A tall man in worn jeans and a faded jacket, his hands trembling as he knelt beside her. His face was weathered but gentle, his eyes wide, with shock at the sight before him. Are you okay? No, you're not okay. Oh Lord, did you just give birth? Here. Emily tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Please help my babies. Don't let them die. The man swallowed hard, nodding quickly. I will. Promise. My name's Daniel. Daniel Brooks. I won't leave you like this. He pulled off his jacket and gently wrapped it around the newborns. His hands were clumsy but careful, his face etched with panic and determination. Daniel glanced around, as if expecting someone else to appear. Where's your husband? Where's the father? Emily's eyes filled with fresh tears. She turned her face away. He left me. He tried to kill me. Daniel's jaw clenched, his eyes darkening with anger. But he didn't push. He simply scooped Emily and the twins into his arms, lifting them as if they were weightless despite her exhaustion and pain. Hold on, he said firmly. There's a small clinic a few miles down. You and these babies are not dying tonight. Not on my watch. Emily clutched the newborns tighter, whispering prayers as Daniel carried them to his old pickup truck parked nearby. The seats smelled of oil and dust, but to Emily, it was salvation. The drive blurred. The pain, the blood, the cries. It all felt like a storm inside her fading consciousness. She barely noticed when Daniel pulled into the gravel lot of a small, dimly lit clinic. Doctors and nurses rushed out as Daniel shouted for help. They took the babies first, rushing them inside. Emily reached out weakly as they disappeared down the hallway. My son, please, he's so weak, she gasped. A nurse touched her arm gently. We'll do everything we can, ma'am. You need rest too. Emily collapsed onto a stretcher, her body finally giving up. Hours passed in a haze. When Emily woke, the room was dim, and Daniel sat on a chair beside her bed. His jacket was gone, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes tired but alert. The babies, Emily whispered, panic surging. Daniel leaned forward quickly. They're alive. Your little boy is weak, but the doctors are watching him closely. Your girl, she's strong. She's already crying loud enough to shake the walls. Emily's heart clenched with relief. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. Thank you, for not leaving me there. Daniel shook his head. Anyone with a heart would have stopped. Then his voice grew quieter. But not everyone has a heart, huh? Emily looked away, shame and pain written on her face. As she turned, she caught the sound of hushed voices outside the door. Two nurses spoke in hurried whispers, unaware that Emily could hear. Terrible, really? Mr. Carter told everyone she abandoned him. Said she ran off with another man and left her children behind. What? That poor woman in there? She nearly died bringing them into the world. Doesn't matter. People believe him. He's rich, powerful. And he says his wife was unstable, unfaithful. The story's spreading fast. They think he's the victim. Emily's heart stopped. Her husband hadn't just left her. He had destroyed her reputation. While she lay bleeding in the dirt, he was already rewriting the story, painting himself as the betrayed man the noble father left behind. Her fists clenched in the sheets. Her body shook with rage and disbelief. Michael, she whispered through gritted teeth, you took everything from me, and now you want to take my name, my honor, my dignity. Daniel leaned closer, concern etched on his face. Emily? What is it? She wiped her tears, her voice raw but steady. He won't win. He thinks I'll stay silent, that I'll disappear. But I'll rise again. For my children. For the truth. He'll regret the night he left me in the dirt. Her eyes blazed with a strength she didn't know she had. And in that moment, Emily Carter, broken, humiliated, left to die, was reborn with a new vow. 5 years passed like a storm, leaving wreckage behind. Emily Carter was no longer the broken woman who once cried in the dirt. With Daniel Brooks's steady support, she had built a life for herself and her twins, Ethan and Grace. The nights of hunger and humiliation had been replaced with discipline, hard work, and quiet dignity. Her small home wasn't much, but it was warm. Every morning began with the sound of Grace's loud voice and Ethan's thoughtful questions. "Mom, is it true stars are like suns, only farther away?" Ethan asked one morning at breakfast, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. Emily smiled as she buttered toast. "Yes, sweetheart. They're just too far for us to feel their warmth." Grace rolled her eyes and grabbed a piece of toast. "Ethan, you and your silly science questions. Who cares about stars? I want to be famous right here on Earth." Emily laughed softly. Grace reminded her so much of herself. Strong-willed, fiery, unwilling to be silenced. Ethan, though fragile in health, carried the brilliance of a mind far older than his years. Daniel still visited often. He wasn't rich, but his heart was gold. He fixed things around the house, drove Ethan to the doctor, and made Grace laugh with his corny jokes. Emily owed him more than words could express. "You're stronger than you think," Daniel told her one evening as they stood outside watching the children play. "5 years ago, I thought you wouldn't survive that night. But look at you now. You've built something out of nothing." Emily's eyes softened. "I didn't do it alone. You were there." He shook his head. "I only opened a door. You walked through it." While Emily's life had slowly risen from ashes, Michael Carter's had begun to burn. Michael had married Clara Reynolds just months after abandoning Emily. Their wedding was the talk of the city, lavish and excessive. But money and beauty could not cover the poison beneath. Clara was cunning, manipulative, and controlling. She treated Michael not as a husband but as a puppet. And Michael, obsessed with power and appearances, let her pull the strings. At home, their arguments shook the walls. "You're a fool, Michael," Clara shouted one night, slamming a glass onto the counter. "You've made enemies everywhere. Do you think your empire can last with this much corruption?" Michael glared, pouring himself another drink. "Don't lecture me, Clara. You're no saint. Half the deals I made were because you wanted your name on them." Clara smirked coldly. "And half of your failures are because you're weak. You're nothing without me." Michael clenched his jaw. He hated her words, but deep inside, he feared they were true. His business empire, once admired, was now crumbling under scandals and investigations. Former allies had turned their backs, whispering about fraud and betrayal. Still, Michael clung to his arrogance. He told himself he was untouchable. Emily's world and Michael's were destined to collide again. One afternoon, Emily was called into a meeting at a small cafe. She had been running a modest clothing shop with the help of Daniel and some local women. They sewed garments by hand, simple but beautiful, made with love. The benefactor who had noticed her work was Mr. Jonathan Reed, a wealthy businessman known for investing in small ventures with potential. "Mrs. Carter," he said warmly, shaking her hand, "I've been observing your shop. You've built something remarkable. Not just clothing, but a story. Strength, resilience, dignity. People want that." Emily blinked, unsure how to respond. I only wanted to provide for my children. And for the women who work with me. They need a chance." Jonathan smiled. "Exactly. You turned tragedy into enterprise. I'd like to invest. I want to expand your brand, make it known across the city. Will you let me help you rise?" Emily's throat tightened. Tears filled her eyes. For years, she had fought just to survive. Now, someone was offering her a chance to thrive. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say yes, Jonathan replied with a kind smile. Your story deserves to be heard. Emily finally nodded. Yes, I'll do it. For my children. Weeks later, Emily attended her first major business event under Jonathan's sponsorship. The hall was glittering, filled with people of wealth and power. Emily wore a simple but elegant dress from her own line. Grace had chosen the color, insisting, Mama, you have to shine brighter than them. All. As Emily stepped into the room, heads turned. Whispers filled the air. Some recognized her. Some didn't. But all saw her dignity, her grace, her quiet strength. And among the crowd, Michael Carter froze. He saw her, the wife he had left to die in the dirt, the woman he had painted as unstable and shameful. She stood radiant, alive, respected. His glass nearly slipped from his hand. Sweat prickled his forehead. Panic surged in his chest. If Emily was back, successful, powerful, then his lies were at risk of unraveling. Michael's breath caught in his throat. His eyes darted across the crowded room, half hoping, half dreading that he had imagined it. But no, there she was, Emily Carter. Not the broken, mud-stained woman he had abandoned 5 years ago, but a woman reborn. Her posture was straight, her face glowing with quiet confidence. She wasn't flaunting herself like Clara often did. No, her strength was softer, calmer, but undeniable. And people noticed. Michael's pulse quickened. What if someone asked questions? What if Emily spoke? What if she told the truth? Michael! He jumped at the sound of Clara's sharp voice beside him. She followed his gaze, her painted lips curling into a sly smile. Well, well, Clara murmured. Isn't that your little ghost? Michael swallowed hard. Don't start, Clara. Clara chuckled. Relax. She looks quite alive to me. Better than I expected, honestly. She was supposed to vanish, wasn't she? That was the story you told. Michael's jaw tightened. She's nothing. Just a charity case who got lucky. Clara leaned closer, her perfume thick and suffocating. Nothing? The way you're sweating says otherwise. Michael turned sharply toward the bar, gulping down his drink. But his eyes betrayed him, sliding back to Emily again and again. Emily felt the weight of stares, but she held her head high. She wasn't here for Michael. She was here for her children, for her future, for the women she had lifted with her business. Still, the sight of him, smug as ever, with Clara clinging to his arm, sent a storm through her chest. Grace's words echoed in her memory. Mama, one day you'll stand taller than them. One day, they'll see. That day was coming. Jonathan Reed approached her with a warm smile. Emily, allow me to introduce you to some investors. Emily smiled back, though her eyes flickered toward Michael. She caught the panic in his face, and, for a moment, felt stronger. He feared her now. That was enough. Later that evening, Michael cornered Clara in a quiet hallway. His mask of confidence had cracked. She can't be here, he hissed. She'll ruin everything. If she tells them what happened. Clara raised an eyebrow. And who do you think they'll believe? The wealthy businessman or the woman he abandoned? Michael, you've already rewritten history. Everyone thinks she ran away. You made sure of that. Michael's hands trembled. But she looks successful. Someone invested in her. What if they listen? Clara's smirk faded into something colder. Then we make sure they don't. Michael stared at her. What do you mean? Clara leaned in, her voice like ice. If she rises, you fall. And I won't let your empire crumble. Because of some woman crawling out of the gutter. We'll bury her again. This time so deep she won't crawl back. Michael's stomach turned, but Clara's words held him like chains. He knew she meant it. Clara always meant what she said. Meanwhile, Emily slipped out onto the balcony for air. The night sky was clear, the city lights glowing like stars. She breathed deeply, trying to steady herself. Daniel's voice echoed in her memory. You've built something out of nothing. Don't be afraid to Stand in the light. She placed a hand on her heart. I'm not afraid anymore, she whispered. But inside the hall, Clara was already spreading her poison. She whispered to investors, dropped hints of scandal, questioned Emily's past. Every word was a thread in a new web meant to strangle Emily's rising reputation. And Michael watched silently, torn between fear and guilt, as Clara wove her trap. By the end of the night, the tension was thick enough to choke. Emily could feel it, though she couldn't yet see the full shape of it. She only knew one thing. Her return had unsettled Michael and Clara. And that was just the beginning. The gala hall shimmered with chandeliers, the floor alive with the shuffle of designer shoes and the clink of crystal glasses. Laughter rang through the air, but underneath it was a tension, restlessness, as though everyone was waiting for something to happen. Emily Carter stood near the edge of the room, her simple yet elegant gown making her look effortlessly radiant. She wasn't dripping in jewels like the others, but her grace outshone the diamonds. Beside her, Jonathan Reed greeted guests, occasionally motioning for Emily to join him. In introductions, Daniel lingered in the background, protective as ever. He didn't belong in such a lavish setting. His old jacket seemed out of place among tuxedos, but he refused to leave Emily unguarded. "Breathe," Daniel whispered as he passed her a glass of water. "You've survived worse than this." Emily smiled faintly, steadying herself. "I know, but tonight feels important, like the past 5 years are leading to this moment." She was right. Across the room, Michael Carter and Clara Reynolds made their entrance. Michael's suit was sharp, but his eyes were tired, his face pale from too many sleepless nights and too much whiskey. Clara, dazzling in a glittering gown, clung to his arm like a queen to her pawn. When they entered, conversations shifted. Whispers followed them. Everyone knew Michael. Carter's empire was faltering. The scandals, the lawsuits, the rumors, it was only a matter of time before the empire he built on lies collapsed. Clara's eyes darted across the room until they landed on Emily. A slow, venomous smile spread across her lips. "Michael," she purred. "Look who's here. The ghost returns again." Michael's jaw tightened. He didn't reply, but Clara could feel his pulse quicken beneath her grip. As the evening unfolded, the tension mounted. Emily spoke with investors, her story winning hearts without her even trying. Jonathan introduced her as a woman of strength and vision, and the crowd responded warmly. Michael watched from afar, his fists clenched. Clara's smile grew tighter, her jealousy burning. Emily wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, and people were noticing. "This ends tonight," Clara hissed under her breath. "She will not steal the stage from us." The moment came when the host announced a toast, giving guests the floor for speeches. Clara seized it. She stepped forward gracefully, glass in hand, her smile wide but sharp as a blade. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying across the hall. "What a beautiful evening. We gather here to celebrate resilience and success. And speaking of resilience," her eyes locked on Emily, "we have among us a woman with quite a story." Emily felt the room shift. Every eye turned toward her. Clara's smile widened. "Our dear Emily Carter. Yes, some of you may not know, but she was once the wife of Michael Carter. She, how should I put this, chose to leave him. She ran away in the middle of the night, abandoning her husband and, most shockingly, her children." Gasps rippled through the hall. Michael remained silent, letting Clara play her game. Clara pressed on, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. Of course, Michael, being the noble man he is, never spoke poorly of her. He raised their children alone while she, Clara tilted her head, feigning pity, found comfort elsewhere. But tonight, she arrives in this hall as though none of that ever happened. "Tell me, Emily, how does one rise from such disgrace?" The room buzzed with whispers. Some looked at Emily with doubt, others with curiosity. Daniel's fists clenched at his sides. "She's lying," he muttered. ready to step forward. But Emily raised a hand, her calm steadying him. Emily stood slowly, her face serene. She didn't shout. She didn't tremble. She simply spoke. "Clara, your words are sharp, but they are not the truth." The room quieted. All eyes were on Emily now. "You say I abandoned my children," Emily continued, her voice clear and unwavering. "But the truth is, my husband abandoned me. He left me in labor, on the side of the road, drenched in mud, screaming for help. He drove past me with you in his car, Clara. He splashed dirt across my face, while I brought his children into the world alone." Gasps filled the air. People turned toward Michael, whose face drained of color. Clara laughed lightly. "How convenient. And where is your proof? Emily? Do you expect us to take your word over his?" Emily nodded slowly. "I expected that question. And I came prepared." She motioned toward the side of the room. A door opened. Daniel stepped forward, followed by 2 doctors from the small clinic where Emily had given birth. They carried files, records, testimonies. "This man," Emily said, her voice breaking slightly with emotion, "found me in the dirt that night. He carried me and my babies to a clinic when no one else would stop. These doctors treated me and my newborn twins. They can testify that I was abandoned, not by choice, but by cruelty." The doctors nodded firmly. One held up a signed statement. The other confirmed, "She nearly died. That night, we all remember. She gave birth in the dirt." The crowd murmured, shock spreading like wildfire. Clara's smile faltered, but she forced a laugh. "Doctors can be paid. Witnesses can lie." Emily inhaled deeply. "Then perhaps you'll listen to Jonathan Reed." Jonathan, the wealthy benefactor, stepped forward. His voice was calm, but his words cut deep. "Michael Carter," he said, turning to face him. "Do you remember me? You should. You once begged for my investment. I trusted you with millions. But tonight I learned the truth that while you pretended to be a victim, you left your wife to die. You lied to everyone, including me." Michael's face twisted with panic. "Jonathan, you don't understand." Jonathan raised a hand, silencing him. "No, I understand perfectly. I invested in a coward. But now I will invest in a survivor." Emily's story is one of strength, not deceit. "As of tonight, every tie I had with you is severed. My future support belongs to her." The hall erupted. Some applauded. Some whispered in disbelief. But all eyes had turned. The tide had shifted. Michael stumbled back, sweat dripping down his temples. "Please, Jonathan, you can't." But Clara pulled her arm away from him, her eyes glittering with cruel delight. "You see, Michael?" she whispered loudly enough for those near to hear. "This is what I always knew would happen. You're weak, pathetic. Did you think I ever loved you? No, I loved your money, and now it's gone." Michael's heart dropped. "Clara, don't." But Clara only laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. "I was waiting for this day, to watch you fall. And now, you're nothing. Less than nothing." She turned her back on him, walking away with a smile as the crowd gasped at her betrayal. Michael staggered, his empire crumbling in a single night. His lies exposed, his wealth evaporating, and now his mistress gone. He was alone. Emily stood tall, her children watching from the side of the room where Daniel kept them safe. Grace's eyes glowed with pride. Ethan's smile was faint but bright. Emily didn't gloat. She didn't strike Michael while he was down. She simply walked toward her children, her voice calm and steady. "I told you," she whispered to herself. "Truth always wins." She took Ethan's hand in one, Grace's in the other. Together they walked across the hall, past Michael, who stood frozen, humiliated, broken. She didn't look at him. She didn't need to. Her dignity was the weapon, her survival the victory. As the doors opened and Emily stepped into the night with her twins, the moral of her story hung heavy in the air. Cruelty may win for a moment, but truth and resilience outlast betrayal. Michael Carter, once powerful and untouchable, now stood in ruins. And Emily Carter, once abandoned in the dirt, walked away triumphant, with her children, her dignity and her destiny intact.